It started with a sound that was too wet to be mechanical and too rhythmic to be human. You woke up at 2 a.m., the silence of the apartment punctured by a soft, squelching chew. It sounded like someone biting into a crisp apple, over and over again, directly inside your ear canal. You sat up, clawing at your ear, but the sound wasn't in your head, it was in the wall. You turned on the bedside lamp, and the room didn't flood with light, it flooded with shadows cast by the thousands of tiny, perfect holes that had appeared in the drywall. The plaster above your bed looked like a honeycomb, a dense cluster of black pits pulsing with a slow, synchronized breath. You scrambled out of bed, your bare feet hitting the floor, but the floor felt wrong. It wasn't cold hardwood anymore. It was spongy. You looked down, and a scream died in your throat. The floorboards were perforated, riddled with crater-like divots that oozed a thick, translucent amber fluid. The smell hit you instantly. Not rot, but an overpowering, sickly sweet scent of fermented sugar and old wax. You backed away toward the door, but the hallway was gone. The doorframe had melted into a dripping archway of porous, beige matter that looked disturbingly like bone marrow. Then you felt the itch, a deep, burrowing tickle in the center of your palm. You raised your hand to your face, trembling. There was no blood. There was no wound. Just a single, perfect hole in the center of your hand, about the size of a dime. Through it, you could see the tendons moving, but they were coated in that same amber sludge. As you watched, a second hole opened next to it with a wet pop, then a third. The skin wasn't tearing, it was simply ceasing to exist, reorganized into a sickening geometric lattice. You weren't bleeding out, you were becoming a nest. "Make room," a voice whispered. It didn't come from the hallway, it came from the holes in the wall. From the darkened clusters of the ceiling, she descended. She wasn't a woman, but she had the shape of one. Her body was a masterpiece of erosion. She had no eyes, only deep, hollow sockets that went back forever. Her skin was a landscape of craters, a living sponge of gray flesh. She didn't walk, she poured herself from the ceiling, her limbs stretching and snapping like wet clay. She hovered inches from your face, and you could see things moving in the cavities of her cheeks, tiny, pale, writhing fingers working to widen the holes. "We are hollow, so we can be filled," she hissed, her voice whistling through the perforated gaps in her throat. You tried to run, but your legs gave way. You looked down. Your knees had dissolved into a lattice of lace-like bone. You collapsed into the spongy floor, the amber fluid soaking into your pajamas. The architect of holes loomed over you, extending a hand that looked like a piece of bleached coral. She touched your forehead. The sensation was cold and sharp. With a sickening, wet crunch, your vision split. You could feel your own face rearranging, the skin pulling apart to form new, perfect windows into your skull. The last thing you saw wasn't darkness. It was a million tiny eyes peering out from the holes in the walls, blinking in unison, welcoming you into the colony.